Welcome to the Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Education, the most educated committee in the Nevada State Legislature. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members De Silva, Dahlia, DeLong, Flanagan, Hanson, Hardy, Hunt, Koenig, LaRue Hatch, Mosca, Orentlicker, and Chair Torres Fawcett.
Welcome to the audience here in Carson City and those joining us in Las Vegas, as well as our subscribers on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't worry, it's still early in session and there's time to do it now. Housekeeping items before we begin. Please remember to silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to the committee secretary. Please don't forget that part. It makes it much harder on my committee staff. So if you plan on speaking and you have not yet signed in, please make sure you sign in at the front of the committee room or in the back if you're in Las Vegas so that we can make sure that we have that information for my committee staff. For those of us joining online, please be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to minimize background noise. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name, spell your name, and state your affiliation, if any, for the record. Then turn the microphone off each time you're done speaking. Handouts should be provided to the committee staff up to 24 hours in advance in order to be posted on Nellis. I do understand that a member of the public came in today requesting that be get provided to the committee members. So we have made copies for the committee members, but we did not have time to post it online. But committee members have received a copy of it. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we do not agree with another person's position. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. So if you plan on joining us for public comment, that will be at the end. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. In addition, the public may submit written testimony to the committee up to 24 hours after the hearing. And I apologize. I know that generally we do have captions, so I'm trying to find out why those are not showing up on our screen. So our IT staff will be looking into that ahead of the hearing, and I should have an update back for the committee. So at this time, we'll go ahead and move on to the first item on the agenda, which is a presentation, which is an overview of the Washoe County School District from Superintendent Joe Ernst. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. My name is Joe Ernst, Washoe County School District Superintendent. And I'm happy to be joined this afternoon by our Board of Trustees, two of our members, our member President Smith and Trustee Hall, who are also here and going to be here for the presentation. I wanted to say on behalf of Washoe County School District, thank you for having the opportunity for us to share some of the great work that's occurring within our school district. I also wanted to say thank you to all of you for your service, for your leadership, and for your support of education. All right, we'll dive right into the presentation. And first is just kind of an overview of Washoe County School District at a glance. You can see that this is the population of students that we serve, nearly 60,000 students, 44% of them being Hispanic. You can see that we also have 97 different languages that are spoken by our families. We have over 110 schools in the district, and 11 of them are district-sponsored charters. And I think it's important to always know that we feel like we make sure that we take every student with every need at all times and are always happy to do so. As we move on to the next, this just gives you an overview of the size of Washoe County School District, actually larger than the state of Connecticut. Our buses go over 20,000 miles each day, and recently we've been able to expand bus services to over 2,000 of our elementary and middle school students. You can also see that Washoe County School District is the 8th largest employer in the state of Nevada with over 9,500 staff. And one of the things that I think we have lots to be proud of is the certification of our staff. You can see that 99% of our staff teach within the area of their licensure, and you can see that over 70% of our teachers have master's degree or above. The other thing that's important to note is the amount of meals that we serve each day to the 60,000 students, with breakfast, lunch, and others, and that's 44,000 meals that we serve a day. So today, what we thought would be a good way of sharing the work in Washoe County School District is around our strategic plan progress. We have a strategic plan in place that focuses on the 5 goals that you can see there. And what we plan to do is share the progress that has been made over the past year or so relative to each of those strategic plan goals. Strong start for every child. This is something intuitively that all educators will tell you. The stronger the start for every one of our students, the better probability they have as they go through their educational career. And there's a couple of areas that we have made substantial investment in as a school district. One is around the professional learning that we're providing to our teachers with the science of reading, and in the form of letters training, as you can see on the slide. This is a comprehensive opt-in professional learning for our teachers that requires 12 days of professional learning, really focusing on foundational reading skills and reading strategies. We also have been doing a great deal in partnership with our families. It's important that we pull our families into the educational experience. We are providing all of our kindergarten students 1 book per month that they can then take home, read with their families, and it's an extension of the classroom. And then it's building family libraries. Another area that we are paying a lot of attention to is the collaboration that we have with our other early childhood providers. And so we're providing professional learning so that all of the students that are entering Washoe County School District in kindergarten are getting optimal opportunities beforehand, before they start their kindergarten experience. And so you can see what we term this is milestone. So here's a milestone, and then what we like to say is the next slide shows momentum that we're making in the area. And so just to quickly orient you on this slide, our focus has really been on teaching foundational reading. And when we look at the fall iReady scores that we have in reading, we had 25% of our students showing end of the year proficiency. Then when you look at just 3 months later, in December, when students took this, you can see that we were already up to 43%. But more importantly is really the 2 next areas, and that's phonics and phonemic awareness. And educators will tell you that when our students understand these reading skills, that really it leads to much greater reading success. You can see some great progress that has been made over the past 3 months. And then again in math, we've nearly doubled that proficiency level. And then again, pulling out particular areas of importance here with numbers and operations. And so in 3 months' time, with very focused and intentional actions in these areas, we really feel that we are providing that strong start for every one of our students. Goal number 2 of the Washoe County School District Strategic Plan is around student voice and advocacy. And what we've done here is We have talked to you in previous presentations around chronic absenteeism, and we understand chronic absenteeism to be a signal for improving the engagement opportunities that we provide for our students. And so one of the efforts that we have made is expanding our clubs, extracurricular, and co-curricular activities. Opportunities that students have to connect with other students of like interest that are after school that continue to create more and more reason for our students to be at school. We have established student advisory committees at all middle and high schools. Again, students are why we're here in education, and when we listen to their voice and gather input and feedback from them, we often gain important insights about where we can improve as a school and as a larger educational system. Another area of expansion is sixth grade athletics. A few years back, we expanded middle schools to include sixth grade. This past year, we've now expanded to sixth grade athletics. And a really important initiative is what we call around slot pay. And slot pay are ways of compensating our educators who go above and beyond day in and day out to provide these extracurricular activities, these extra opportunities for our students. And indeed, as you can see on the next slide, it's led to some substantial success. When we orient against the slide that you can see up there, you can see that what we had to do this year as a school district was build a system to track which students are in clubs, activities, and extracurricular activities. And so we have been able to, in the first semester of this school year, build that system out where we now can keep track of every student. What it does, some people might ask a little bit, what's the importance of that? Well, one is it's going to help us narrow in on the 42% that's below that. 42% of our students are in some type of extracurricular activity, and now we're going to be able to see what does their attendance look like when we compare it to their peers. And so again, when we're making investments towards student engagement, but we also want to make sure that we're measuring the progress that those investments are having. As you look at the middle slide, this is some of the most substantial work we've been able to do during the first 4 to 5 months of our school year. The last school year in 23-24, you could see that we had 105 different after-school clubs. This year, in less than half a year, we now are close to 200 additional clubs and activities for our students. And so that is really a good deal of progress that we feel like we've made in that area. And then all the way to the right of the slide, you can see the investment that our Board of Trustees, we as a school district in collaboration with our associations, have made in terms of increasing slot pay. And then you can see that the amount of hours, over 14,000 additional hours of engagement for our students. And so when we look at building out the whole child and considering the many aspects that contribute to student success, we see this as a really important aspect of making sure our students are graduating. As we look into goal 3, we'll talk about safety and belonging. And with safety and belonging, you can see that this is about parent-teacher home visits. And one of the anchors of our strategic plan is moving forward on our strategic plan in partnership with our families and our community. And our our parent-teacher home visits have been a staple within our school district for the past 10 years. And having been a former teacher and a former principal and having participated on parent-teacher home visits, it's an opportunity where we reach out to families, we go to their homes, and we listen to their aspirations for their children, and we gain a different connection outside of the school walls. We also have made substantial investment in improving the physical safety. Last week there was a presentation around safety and belonging. What you can see here is that we have provided additional fencing, single point of entry. We now have systematized our visitor management system, so we know each and every person who's coming into our buildings. And then we have the Strategics alert system. If there is an emergency situation, every teacher has the opportunity to instantly notify so that there can be an immediate response. We have had situations this school year where that has been highly beneficial. Our law enforcement partners and school police will tell us the quicker the reaction time, the greater probability we have of intervening in a very productive way. Then you can also see as we continue, again, we've offered back-to-school expos at the start of our school year. And then, again, we have really tried to make sure that when we are moving forward with our strategic plan, it's very much in partnership with our families. A final aspect before I share some of the data relative to safety and belonging is, as a school district, again, with the leadership of our Board of Trustees, senior leadership, and as a school district, we have expanded school police within our school district, again, recognizing the importance of safety at all of our middle, high schools, all of our buildings, and we've also expanded the number of campus supervisors in middle and high schools, folks that are out and about all day long, making and connecting with our students in positive ways and helping support them with needs that they may have. As we look at some of the progress or the momentum that has been made within the school district, you can see that the parent-teacher home visits, there's a comparison, fall 23-24 to fall 24-25, and you can see that we've got close to doubling the number of schools that are participating in parent-teacher home visits. You can see that 344 staff have completed parent-teacher home visits, and the number of parent-teacher home visits that we've completed this year is close to 1,100. And again, these are opportunities for us to engage our families, get to know them, get to know their needs, and create relationships that extend beyond just the classroom. You can see in the middle box our family graduation advocates. We think this is a really important area in supporting our students to make sure that they are getting the needs and supports that they may have as they are pursuing their final year towards graduation. And then I think it's important to note our school of choice process in Washoe County School District. During our first window, we had over 1,100 families apply for schools that they were not zoned to. And I think it is really good that we can report that almost 95% of our families were placed in one of their top two choices. And so they wanted to go to a school that wasn't one that they were zoned for. They could choose from a number of schools, and 95% of them have been able to go ahead and go to those schools. And then you can see that nearly 90% were given their number one choice. And so we recognize the fit for families, and we recognize that sometimes there are schools and situations that better serve our families for a number of reasons, and we try to provide that choice to them. And we're pleased with progress that's being made in that area. As we go into goal number 4, academic growth and achievement, we've taken I wanted to broaden the look that we have at academic growth and achievement. And first and foremost is increased staffing for our highest need schools. In previous presentations, we have talked a bit about our comprehensive school collaborative, schools that we as a school district have identified as maybe knowing that they can perform at higher levels, really some of our lower performing schools. And what we have done is we have made an investment to those students, families, and schools with increased staffing from all grade levels. We provide the principal with additional mentorship to help build foundational elements within the school. And then one of the things that our schools will tell you is we have what we call a long-term sub. They'll call it the super sub. And really what we are trying to create in buildings is stability. And the greater that stability is from a day-to-day basis, the greater that the education, the teaching and learning can occur. Those super subs are used in a variety of ways. We also prioritize as a school district when we're staffing and we see vacancies at schools, we prioritize these schools to fill them first with subs and with personnel. You can see one of the real places of innovation in Washoe County School District is a data management system that we have built out that is being recognized nationally. And what this system does is it tells us immediately the moment a student is off track to graduate. So it identifies some key areas of when students become at risk, and then has now become so nuanced as a system that we can tell you the moment a student is now off track towards graduation, teachers, counselors, and schools have this at their fingertips, can look at this on a daily basis, and can check in and support students as needed. Really a system to be very proud of. What we have also done is we have expanded our EL services. So we recognize some of the different funding models. One of those is around English language weighted funding. And a way in which we have done that is we have created English language coaches that support all of our schools in terms of increasing the capacity to provide better language-rich instruction. They provide professional learning for the staff, and they also work with students as well. And so we're really trying to take a new look at the service model and the ways in which we are best supporting our English language students. And then we're going to have an opportunity to talk to a bit more in our next presentation is AB 49, and that's around recruitment and retention. I'll give you just a brief preview and share with you why we've included it on Goal 4, Academic Growth and Achievement. And so when we say momentum, really at the front of that momentum is when we have a highly qualified educator in front of our students. We really believe in people over programs, and you can see in this graph, and which we'll share again a little bit more in our next presentation, is the commitment we have to making sure that we're reducing vacancies and we're making sure that we have a teacher in front of students at the start of every school year. One of the real points of accomplishment that we have been able to achieve this year as a school district. Previously, last school year, to start the year, we had over 150 classrooms without a teacher to start the school year. This year, we were down to 10. And that has come from a number of different reasons. One, critically, that I'll share is how important the increased funding that has gone towards our teachers has been. It has led to significant retention with our teachers, and we want to continue to recognize the value that that has for our students. Lastly, I'll go into Goal 5, empowering all learners for their future. What we've designed is our postgraduate tools to make sure that our students know what options that they have in front of them. One of the real areas of accomplishment has been around dual credit expansion. our Board of Trustees, and our school district has made a commitment to paying for concurrent dual credit classes within our school district. And this was real intentional action to make sure that we were widening the access for all students to take advantage of such an incredible opportunity, being able to earn college credits while they are in high school. We also, what we saw last year, I actually have some data, so I'll save that for a moment. If you now look at the next slide, this is around our CTE program. One of the things as a school district is we're trying to provide programming for every type of student that we serve, be it dual credit, be it CTE pathways. Opportunities that help match our students' skills, attributes, and desires with programming that we offer. And so this one is kind of a fun slide because you can see the amount of CTE programs barely even fits on just one slide. And so we kind of put that visual there because the CTE program continues to expand, and we have been really proud of how we have established workforce relationships. Another area this year that Washoe County School District has made tremendous progress on is the amount of internships that we're providing our students. Last year, we had only 20 internship opportunities for our students. This year, we have over 100 on-the-job internship opportunities for our students, ways in which they can learn on the job. And so that just kind of speaks to some of the high school programming. This one here is something that I thought warrants pause from all of us as we are recognizing the significant contributions of Debbie Smith. We have named our CTE Academy after an educational champion for many years, and we're really proud that we will be opening the Debbie Smith CTE Academy in August of 2025. If you ever have an interest to come see the facility and see the work that will be occurring, we are really excited about expanding CTE programming at the new facility. And then just a real couple quick facts for you that I think are good. Last year, what we saw is over 50% of our schools improved their star ratings. And so, as I've shared today, there are plenty of highlights in Washoe County School District, but as we all know in education, you never arrive. The work is always in front of you, and we have still much to accomplish. But what you can also see is nearly 20% or over 20% of our schools are now 4- and 5-star schools. And then again, what we have tried to do is make targeted growth in either reading or math. And what you can see is the number of schools that have made growth in each of those areas this past year. We are excited about what the results will be as our students are about to embark upon state testing for this school year. And then you can see 7 of our high schools are of the 25 best in Nevada. And then finally, and this is really, I think, important information for everyone to understand, 65% of our students have completed advanced courses. It always makes me think back to my high school years, and when I look at the rigor of the advanced courses that are being offered, I think it would be challenging for all of us, and it's really something to see when we have 65% of our students taking these advanced courses. Over 50% of our students are earning AP credits, and then 31% of our students earning dual credits. So I'm getting a high school credit and a college credit at the same time, which is win-win in so many different ways for our students and for our economic development. And you can see almost half of Washoe County School District's graduates qualified for a Millennium Scholarship last year. And so we close with this. Really, we feel the loftier the building, the deeper that the foundation must be laid. We believe that through and through with education. We're proud of the progress that's being made in Washoe County School District, and we recognize there's still so much work to be done. So with that, I conclude and would be willing to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay. Okay, first, I'll go ahead and start with Vice Chair De Silva, and then I'll go to Assemblymember Hanson, and then back.
Thank you, Chair. And always good to have you here in this committee here, Superintendent Ernst. So my question pertained to the participation in clubs and after-school programs. I think it's pretty awesome that you're able to now track the participation rates. So could you just give a little bit more of a delve into how it's done? You said it looked as if it was done through IC. And then also, how long have you been tracking this data?
Yeah.
Thank you.
As a entire system just this year. And so we are using our Infinite Campus Management System, and it is a universal system that all schools have access to. And really, it has been a concerted effort to train our schools in how to make sure that that data is getting into the system, because what we found is the years prior, we had very incomplete information, and with that incomplete information, it's difficult to get at data-driven decisions that are really going to support or identify the return we're getting on investment. And so really it is through Infinite Campus, making sure that our registrars, our schools, our teachers all understood how to do that, and then setting clear guidance and expectations on timelines of which to do that.
Assemblymember Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for being here. It's so much to be encouraged by. A wonderful presentation, and really appreciate the commitment you have made for years and years and years in Washoe County. And so a couple of things. When we talked about the LETTERS program for teaching the science of reading, how long has that LETTERS program been offered?
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much for the comments as well. Last year was the first year of LETTERS training. This year has been the second. And right now the training, and again, I mentioned it's 12 full days of training. And so teachers are opting in. We're also looking to make sure that we build that out to make sure we're getting to as many teachers as possible. But it started last year. It's more than doubled this year, and we feel like we have a good plan in place for expanding it to K-3 teachers going forward to next year.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that. Also, on the chronic absenteeism, Washoe County's had a really, to me at least, it appears a very rigorous home visit program that I think is a model. Can you tell us a little bit more about, your numbers? We heard kind of statewide what chronic absenteeism, I don't think I saw it in the slide, but can you tell me maybe what we're facing in Washoe County and what you're seeing as the results of some of these home visits, what you're tapping into is maybe what some of the problems are?
Thank you very much again for the question. A couple of things I'd like to
Sir, would you be able to state your name for the record? Thank you.
Yes, Joe Ernst, Washoe County School District Superintendent. Thank you very much for that. One is, I think it's always important to understand average daily enrollment as opposed to, or average daily attendance as opposed to just chronic absenteeism. Remember, average daily attendance speaks to, in our school district, we have approximately 93% of our students in school every day. So that's just an important aspect that can sometimes be misnomered with chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism is a compelling challenge. Chronic absenteeism remains a compelling challenge for so many reasons. We have made great progress. We have seen over 50% of our schools making progress, one being recognized tomorrow by our community partners for the substantial progress that's being made in this area. The progress is being made in a number of ways. One, through system development at the school to make sure that we are able to carefully track, monitor our students. Through relationship building at the teacher level, not just the counselor and administrative level, with our families when students aren't there. We have tried to take on creative approaches such as texting families when their students aren't there, the day they're not there, to really try to put more immediacy to it. And we've also worked with community partners to form various task force so that we are approaching this from an entire community level. Some of the reasons that we see that contribute to chronic absenteeism are really about basic family and needs. Food security needs remains a very real something that we support as a school district and as an entire community. We also see academic frustrations as an aspect that leads to this. When students fall further and further behind and the gap grows wider and wider, it's easier and easier to disengage. So when we talk to families on our parent home visits, we try to tap into their insights. We're always looking for feedback from our families, not only to share maybe thoughts and insights we have, but to learn from them on how we can better meet their child's needs. For the sake of time, I had a really good anecdote in this area that we had around one of our schools that Senator Cortez Masto just visited. And this was, we find, a situation where there was a passing of the mother, and how the father reached out to the school to talk to the school about how the teacher could be aware of that and support that, and already just seeing immediate gains. So it's this two-way conversation that we're having with our families to gain insights, learn from them, and find ways that we can support. So kind of a rounded answer to your question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that very much.
Thank you. Assemblymember LaRue Hatch.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here to answer our questions. So my question is about iReady and the testing. As a parent, I really appreciate that iReady has things for us to work on at home to continue that learning. But I am very concerned that our youngest kiddos are double testing with iReady and with MAPS. And I just wondered, is there anything that the district is doing to try to reduce that? And what are the barriers that are maybe preventing us from reducing that over testing?
Thank you for the question, Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. Again, Joe Ernst, Washoe County School District Superintendent. For the record, I think it is a fair concern and one to be aware of. We are really pleased with iReady and what it offers for our students, our teachers, and our families. And I think that as we are collectively working together to find ways in which we can improve the education for our students, one is around the ability to reduce the overall amount of testing. And I think we could give greater consideration. Currently, right now, our kindergarten through third grade students have to take both MAP tests and iReady tests. And certainly there's reasons for these various requirements. Where I think there's opportunity is for us to examine those reasons and see if iReady could indeed act in replacement of. There's possibilities through comparability studies and other mechanisms, but it's one thing to identify over-testing as something that may not be as positively contributing to education as we would like. And then another thing to be able to find the areas in which we can make the improvements to reduce the amount of testing and indeed move forward on those. And so I appreciate the question, and I think that we have continued opportunity. Another example along those lines that's probably worth noting for everyone is the efforts that have been made by the Nevada Department of Education around SBAC testing, listening to superintendents, and really anybody who has had students or children in grades 3 through 8 or are an educator themselves know that that testing is a great deal of time, the amount of time it takes. What they have done this year is they've reduced the amount of questions, they've reduced the length of the testing, and I think that's a step in the right direction. But I think it is really important that we continue to recognize that teachers understand where our students are at. They can identify the discrete areas of which they have need, and that it's not always needed through one formalized test to be able to do that. So I think there is opportunity as we are collectively moving forward to examine that further.
Thank you. And I just want a clarification too. So can you explain why we need to take why the maps are required for grades, I think it's K through 3?
Assemblymember Torres Fawcett, thank you for the question. Joe Ernst, Washoe County School District Superintendent, for the record. Currently, as a result of read by grade 3, we do have to have all of our kindergarten through third grade students take the MAP testing, and really that is so that the state as a whole can collectively examine the progress of our students, and that is the tool that has been selected. So that's the short answer. I think there are other tools that can help with that, and that may prove beneficial as we're moving forward.
Thank you. And can you also explain some of the functions of iReady besides MAPS is an assessment that educators can use to determine where kids are at in comparison to their peers that would be taking a similar test. But can we explain how, like, the difference between that and a program like iReady? Like, why does Washoe County School District choose to use a program like iReady to support their students?
Thank you again for the question, Assemblymember Torres Fawcett. Joe Ernst, Washoe County School District, for the record. iReady also becomes an instructional system. So it's really assessment and instruction working in combination. And one of the real advantages is around teacher preparation. It will identify the discrete standard areas that students may be struggling in. It will provide lessons and ways to support those areas. So I guess the single biggest difference is one is an assessment that identifies areas, while iReady not only identifies that, but provides the instructional resources to address where those deficits are. And what our teachers and staff will tell you is the ease of implementation. When you are balancing and juggling multiple students in your classroom, when you have something that is able to help you efficiently prepare lesson plans and instruction for students, there's a great deal of advantage for that. So that's kind of the big difference between the two. One, iReady really has the instructional component built into it that builds off of the assessment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My colleague, Assemblymember De Silva, touched on it, but going back to the clubs programs, it looks like a great incentivizing program for both the students and the teachers. I'm wondering, and it's a significant number of increase in terms of clubs, but I noticed the slot pay associated with that. So is there a cap on how many clubs you could create based on how much revenue there is to accommodate the teachers who are participating?
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman Member Flanagan. Joe Ernst, Washoe County School District, for the record. We do try to look at that when we are building a budget to make sure that we are not going too far beyond. This year, we've piloted 6 additional slots for all of our elementary schools, and so they can't go over that. So we'll carefully monitor that in the first year of implementation. At the high school levels, we've provided additional funding to expand it. So there had been previous funding, of which you could see there was 105 clubs, activities, slots that were available. This year we've provided additional funding to grow that at the rate that you can see. We do have it budgeted and capped just to make sure that we are managing it in a fiscally responsible way. I can tell you historically we have not reached that cap. And so the more that we're continuing to help teachers identify these opportunities and build on students' interest, I think the more we'll end up reaching what that cap is that's been identified.
Thank you very much. And I think you touched upon another second part of my question, which was it across the different segments, elementary, middle, high school? But thank you for answering that when you answered. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I do not see any, so thank you so much for the presentation. With that, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, and we will open the hearing on AB 49, which revises provisions relating to educational personnel. As we had noted earlier, there's obviously an issue with the closed captions working in the Carson City room today, so if anybody wanted to follow along, you can just log in to YouTube and just follow along that way, but we are just having technical issues, and I would have to otherwise shut down my meeting for an hour and a half in order for us to get the captions up and running. So we are going to proceed, but like I said, those captions are available online so that people can follow along as needed. So we'll go ahead and begin when you're ready. Thank you. Please make sure you just state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Ernst. I'm Washoe County School District Superintendent, and I'm very pleased this afternoon to be joined by our Chief Human Resource Officer, Mr. Doug Owen, and the Managing Partner of Pinion Public Affairs, Dylan Shaver, and both will be sharing information around AB 49.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Shaver, that's Dylanshaver, here today on behalf of the Washoe County School District, of course. Assembly Bill 49, a concept that we are terming the Excellence in Every Hire Act, was born from a very public process. I'm not sure if when these local government bill drafts show up in front of your various committees that anybody sort of has walked you through how we get to this point. And at the Washoe County School District, I just want to give you the high-level overview of the work that brought this bill in front of you today. So it all starts with a gentle reminder from LCB, hey, just a reminder, you represent a school district that has a bill jacket, and that really kicks off a process of listening to personnel, to the families at the district, listening to the ideas that may come from trustees, from collective bargaining units, and from other stakeholders, and compiling those ideas, vetting them for where we might be able to do something achievable. Every school district has the option to show up in front of you to say, wouldn't it be great if we just funded education to the national average? We could all walk in with that bill every single session, and the rigors of the budget process could pare it down every session. But it was very important that we took the opportunity to do something that was achievable and would be useful from the minute it passed moving forward. Once those sort of more achievable ideas bubbled to the top, there was a lot of public input, there were public hearings on the topic, and eventually this is the topic the board voted on to advance. And from there, there's some paperwork that culminates with Asher Killian telling you 2 days after the deadline that you sent it to the wrong place and to send it to the right place instead. So From there, LCB staff reaches out, and we put together the product that was introduced as Assembly Bill 49. That is a bill that helps us look at 21st century challenges we are seeing in recruiting. Last session, between the enhancements that were brought about through the pupil-centered funding plan and from Senate Bill 231, we were able to retain great personnel. The superintendent already spoke to the vast diminishment of vacancies we saw between last school year and this, and that is a great opportunity. But hurdles remain to attracting people into these positions. We've got the pay where it needs to be, but there are other things we have noticed that just make it a little harder to come work in a Washoe County school. And that puts Nevada and Washoe County at a disadvantage as it relates to some key higher areas, not just educators, school social workers, psychologists, counselors, and so forth. We want to be ready to address this when our ability to retain personnel reaches its natural end. We know that there are a number of personnel who could retire tomorrow if they so chose. Eventually they will. No matter what you give us to pay them, they're going to want to spend time with their children, their grandchildren, skiing, vegging out on the couch, and they've earned that right. But we want to be ready for when that happens. I will leave it to Mr. Owen to walk us through a little bit of what that looks like and feels like on the ground, but know going into this conversation, our intent is to streamline the licensure process while retaining the high standards that the state and the school district set for educators and for other professional personnel in our service.
Thank you, Dylan. Doug Owen, Chief HR Officer for the Washoe County School District, for the record. Our proposal, again, is split into about three parts. So the first part you'll see there is around reciprocal licensure. We've had a great partner in the...
And I just want to clarify to members of the committee, there has been an amendment submitted as well. So you should have received that one. That's on Nellis. And then there is another amendment. And you have already received a copy. I think that the two are very similar. The one pager is a little bit more detailed and easy to read, I think, than the other version. But I just want to make sure members know we're going off the amendment.
Fair enough. Thank you. So the first section there, you'll see section 1 is really about reciprocal licensure. So if you have an individual who, let's say, is licensed to teach in the state of California or another state and is in good standing, we would like to be able to hire them on in a provisional status until they complete their application process with the Nevada Department of Education. This process through the Nevada Department of Ed can take several weeks, if not months at times, which if you think about the graduation timeline for people coming out of college, be it in a late May, early June timeframe, getting that process done before the beginning of our school year, which is in August, can sometimes prove difficult. So they may start the school year, our students may start the school year with a substitute, only 2 weeks later to have their teacher be licensed and in the classroom. So the first part is about reciprocal licensure and getting those individuals, specifically teachers, provisional licenses before they are complete with the Nevada State Department of Education. The second portion there allows for us to expand that a little bit to nurses and social workers. So we run into the same situation where you may have a pediatric nurse at a local hospital and they've been working there for 20 years. And now they want to come work in a school, which is fantastic. But they have to go through the Nevada Department of Education licensing division and make sure that they have the appropriate school nurse license. We would like to, of course, grant them a provisional license to have them begin work at the start of the school year and then complete their license application through NDE. And then finally, the fee relief piece. So we've run into this as a barrier a couple times where you have a substitute teacher who makes less than $150 a day and they go apply for a substitute teaching license. That can cost them up to about $250. And then 3 months later, when they've secured the ability to apply for a standard license, they pay again to get another license, and it's the same $250. So we're asking for the Nevada Department of Education to recognize that that person has already gone through that process and shouldn't need to go through it again. But again, that's a fee waiver piece that has, I believe, a fiscal note attached to it as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Dylan Shaver on behalf of the Washoe County School District to touch briefly on the fiscal note portion. Mr. Owen and the Department of Education have been working diligently on this measure to provide both the amendment and the department's explanation of the amendment that appear on Nellis today. The changes that we see in Section 1 specifically are to address their fiscal note on Section 1 of the bill, which was to the tune of about $63,000. That is relieved, we believe, by taking all of the certification requirements off of the Department of Education and pushing them down to the school district. Also, in talking to the Department of Education, we saw that there was a little bit of discomfort about rolling this out statewide, all on the front end. They have requested that it be a pilot that applies just in Washoe County, so that is reflected in the language in front of you. Ultimately, the Washoe County School District is not in the position of telling you what to do in the other 16 school districts or with the SPCSA. So it's certainly a fine change from the district's perspective. The other fiscal note, however, is a little tougher a nut to crack, as it were. There is a challenging component in this building whenever a philosophical issue meets a financial one. We understand that through this charging of licensure twice is an income source for the department. We cannot quibble with their analysis of that, and we want to make sure the department has the resources they need to do their job. But what we have a bill is something that is a very simple change from the applicant's perspective to ensure that somebody who has already paid for essentially the same background check and the same verification process doesn't have to pay it a second time when they come to work at a school district where, again, from our perspective, they already work. So, again, no one is trying to carve out pieces of the department's budget, but we do understand that when you say fee waiver, there's going to be a department of the other side saying, hey, those were our fees. And we leave it to the committee to how best to handle that. But again, we view it as a barrier to entry into this marketplace.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to questions. Members, any questions? Assemblymember Lewer Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate the goal to maintain the high standards while also helping reduce barriers. You know, as a teacher who paid for a sub-license and then an initial license, I understand that's a lot of money when we're starting out. I just had a question about the wording itself, and if you have the numbers for the actual licenses, because I looked them up this morning and I thought it was 180 for sub and 200 for teacher. Is that correct?
Doug Owen, for the record, Washoe County School District Chief HR Officer. Yes, there's an additional fee for a fingerprint check that happens that gets you to about that 250 number.
And then, Chair, if I can follow up from there, I just wanted to verify the numbers. So in the wording, it says the amount of the fee waiver pursuant to this paragraph must equal the amount of the fee for the initial issuance of the license, right, $200, exceeds the amount paid by the applicant for the license or endorsement as a substitute teacher, $180. The way I read that, that's $200 minus $180, we're giving them $20 off, which is obviously, I think, not what you're intending. Is your intention that they just pay the $20 difference? And could we maybe have legal clarify whether that wording achieves that or not?
Thank you so much for the question, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Shaver, Washoe County School District. The second one would be my short answer to that question. The the ultimate goal is to ensure that the applicant is not being double charged. And so there are certainly components in converting a sublicense to a professional license that require additional work above and beyond. And just like any other regulatory structure, we want the department to be able to sort of assess for that work. But beyond that, anything else that they've already paid to have done, their background check, whatever else it might be, we would want to see backed out of the ultimate cost.
Thank you. Assemblymember De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. Just two quick questions. So when it comes to the reciprocity that we're discussing here, are we talking about out-of-state teachers who are able to now receive the license? And then secondly, the streamline that we're also talking about for CTE instruction in regards to certain curriculum requirements that you want to work through. So is this like now a focus on CTE teachers potentially not having to take extra classes that are required by other licensees? So can you just explain that just a little bit, and so we can just get a clarification on that? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Doug Owen for the record, Washoe County School District. So that second portion of the bill regarding CTE, we were actually able to remove in our collaboration with the Nevada Department of Education. That should be in the latest amendment that, right, I understand is a little late to the game here. But we were able to remove that based on that's through a regulation and through our submission of our own CTE program that we can get that resolved. So does that answer the question?
Okay. I just want to, because you brought up the amendment, is there anything that is in the second amendment that we received, quite honestly, moments before the hearing? Is there anything different in this amendment than what is in the other amendment that we reviewed?
Doug Owen for the record, again, Washoe County School District. So I believe there was the removal of, and I'm going to scroll up really quick. It was previously section 2, 9, 8, 3, and 4, which talks about from junior high school and middle school to elementary school, and then the subsequent paragraph regarding CTE licensure. So both of those should be removed from the wording in the bill, and that could be resolved with the Nevada Department of Education licensing division without having to go through and write it into the statute.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, I think that was in both amendments too. So it wasn't anything that was different from the amendment that I reviewed before the committee hearing. I think that was in the other amendment as well, just so committee members are aware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Dylan Shaver for the record. We understand it to be the same way. Of course, everything moving so quickly, we got language from NDE and turned it around to the committee just as quickly as we could earlier today. But our read of it is the same. Our attempt at amending the document technically is then supported by a much more clean version that the department has prepared.
Thank you. That's helpful. Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this pragmatic idea. I think when you discussed about how you wanted to approach your BDR, so you did answer my question about why it was not statewide, but would love to hear what is the plan then? If it's a pilot, are you going to report back to the state? Is it something that we think we might see next session? Just in those discussions, what are we thinking about that, and how will the data be reported?
Thank you so much for the question. Again, Dylan Shaver on behalf of the Washoe County School District. Under the amendment, it is a pilot that we conducted through Washoe County, through which I believe the Commission on Professional Standards in Education could then sort of adopt statewide by regulation. The data would be collected at the WCSD level and submitted to the department. Mr. Owen and his team, I can let them speak to the specifics of this particular relationship, but my understanding is we have a very good relationship with the department's licensure team. That was a mouthful. The department's licensure team. I'll practice and come back to you. And we believe that we can, using existing tools, frankly, submit the data they need in a way that they can trust.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I would like some clarifying language. There's two different things that I would like to see moving forward. One, I think that this is a great piece of legislation to support the issues that obviously Washoe County cares about, but I think that this is an issue statewide, and I do not agree with the department's goal to limit it to just Washoe County. I think that the original intent of this legislation was to address an actual workforce shortage that we're seeing across the state, and I'm going to be very honest, working in a school setting, I don't see any reason why a registered nurse should be held up in the licensure process when we have school nurses that are FAFSAs that are doing this work that are not registered nurses. And literally you're giving Band-Aids to 6-year-olds and sometimes administering medication, and people that are registered nurses are significantly more qualified in that work than our FAFSAs that we have in our office. I would know. I sometimes am serving as the FAFSA, and they're just coming in for Band-Aids. And so I would rather see a registered nurse in that role anyways. So I do not agree with that position. Additionally, I would like more clarifying language on page 6 of the bill, section 3, sub 4B, just to make it very clear that what the discount would be, whether it's that $180 or if it's that $20. But I do think that it was the district's intent to capture the entire state, and I understand that there's been some pushback and that you all have been good partners working with the department. But I do think that there seems to be an interest among the committee as well to ensure that this is something accessible to other schools in other areas as well. Thank you. I don't see any other remarks from committee members at this time. We will go ahead into individuals wishing to testify in support of AB 49. As a reminder, anyone wishing to testify in support will be able to speak for up to 2 minutes. Please make sure you state and spell your name for the record. We'll invite anyone here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Please begin when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Trevor Parrish with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is in support of AB 49 as drafted because it helps address one of Nevada's top priorities, the teacher shortage, by creating another teacher pipeline to our community. The Chamber hasn't yet had the chance to review the amendments that were introduced, and we'd love to chat with the bill sponsors about them to see where we can find the common ground. But by accepting interstate teachers' licenses, Nevada would open the door to an entirely new, well-qualified workforce of teachers and will help improve the student-teacher ratios to ensure we have the teachers we need to staff all of our schools, including our Title I schools. We'd like to thank the bill sponsors for bringing forward this measure, and we thank the committee for your time and consideration of this measure. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Sarah Adler with Silver State Government Relations, and today I'm proud to represent the Coalition of Independent Charter Schools of Northern Nevada that I work with, many of whom are Washoe County School District authorized charter schools. So our schools think this is a terrific bill. They would love to see it statewide as well, but we look forward to speaking with the sponsor to see whether Washoe County's own authorized charter schools can participate if this becomes a Washoe County pilot. But we are in support. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Susan Kima. I'm the Executive Director for the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, and we are in support of AB 49, including the amendment. Thank you for your attention to this bill.
I don't see anyone else here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of AB 49? Seeing none. AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of AB 49?
Testify in support of Assembly Bill 49. Please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Again, if you wish to testify in support, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in opposition to AB 49. I do not see anyone here in Carson City, and I do not see anyone in Las Vegas. AVH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to AB 49?
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 49, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue or raise your hand in the Zoom window. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll go ahead and move to neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I see one, so please begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Dawn Echeverry, President of the Nevada State Education Association, the voice of educators for 125 years in all 17 counties. We were originally in support of this bill, but with the new amendment, we will need to have further conversation with the maker, the Department of Ed, and our members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in neutral in Carson City or in Las Vegas? I don't see anyone. AVH, is there anyone on the line?
To testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 49, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll go ahead and invite Washoe County School District if you have any closing remarks.
Thank you, Assemblymember Torres Fawcett. Assemblyman, thank you very much for the opportunity to bring forward Assembly Bill 49. We appreciate the questions and the support of the bill. And we also wanted to say thank you to the Nevada Department of Education for their collaboration and ongoing work. So thank you very much for having us here today.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on AB 49. At this time, we'll go ahead and move on to the next hearing on the agenda, and we will open the hearing on AB 205. All right. Before we begin this hearing, we are going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break just to give committee members a moment. I expect this to be a longer hearing, and my staff is not able to leave the room once the hearing is started. So we are going to go ahead and just take a 5-minute recess. The Assembly Committee on Education will reconvene. At this time, we are going to continue with the hearing on AB 205, which has already been open. Assembly Member Golding, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and committee members. Good afternoon. I'm Heather Goulding. I represent Assembly District 27, and it is an honor to be here today and present Assembly Bill 205. Joining me in this presentation in Las Vegas is Marianne Estrada, a member of the Nevada section of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, or ACOG, and Sarah Adler, who is here with me, and she also represents ACOG. ACOG physicians approached me with the request to sponsor this bill, which reflects their dedication to improving health education for Nevada's children. AB 205 is a targeted, narrow bill that proposes a simple but important change to NRS 389.036 that doesn't alter parental rights in any way. Currently, Nevada is one of only 5 states requiring parents or guardians to affirmatively opt in for their children to participate in public school human sexual health education. This bill maintains parents' control while shifting the policy from opt-in to opt-out, which will streamline the process and reduce administrative burdens without diminishing parental authority. The proposed change would allow students to participate in human sexual health instruction unless their parents choose to opt them out. Importantly, schools will be required to notify parents each year that sexual health education is within the child's curriculum. And parents will retain the right to withdraw their children at any point during the year. If a parent does not opt out, their child will participate in the instruction. Under the current system, using a statewide average, about 93% of parents opt in, indicating strong support for sexual health education. However, about 2% of parents actively opt out, and a concerning 5% of parents don't respond, resulting in those children missing critical health education. This bill addresses that 5% gap. As a legislator, I always ask, what is the consequence of not passing this bill? In this case, the consequence is clear. A significant number of Nevada students, especially the most vulnerable, are missing out on essential health education simply because their parents failed to respond. The benefits of AB 205 are clear. Reduced burden on parents and guardians. Most parents want their children to receive this education. Moving to an opt-out will reduce the administrative burden on those who have already expressed support for this curriculum. There's also a reduced burden on teachers. Teachers are already stretched thin, and the current opt-in system forces them to chase down permission slips. AB 205 alleviates this burden from teachers. But most importantly is the third benefit, improved health outcomes. The most important outcome is reducing the number of students who miss out on critical education that can prevent teen pregnancies, can reduce sexually transmitted infections, and help students build healthier relationships. To parents who opt out, I deeply respect and appreciate your engagement in your child's education. This bill does not infringe on your right to make decisions for your children. In fact, it ensures that every parent is notified each year that sex ed is offered. Governor Sandoval's primary concern in his 2017 veto message of a very similar bill was the one-time opt-out for a student's entire K-12 experience, and the amendment that we're bringing today removes that. Let's take a little closer look at the data. According to a survey of school districts, about 2% of parents choose to opt out, while 5% of parents don't respond. In Clark County, obviously our largest county, the numbers are even more striking. Across a 4-year average, 1% of parents opted out, while 8% of students were excluded from sexual health education due to non-responsive parents. Now I'll turn to our presentation over to Ms. Estrada in Las Vegas, who will briefly outline the risk posed to children who miss out on sexual health education. Following that, I'll walk you through the specifics of AB 205.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the members of the Assembly Committee of Education. My name is Maren Estrada, and I am a second-year medical student at the Kirk School of Medicine at UNLV. I also represent American College of OBGYN's Nevada section, and I grew up in Las Vegas. I attended school in CCSD. Sexual health is an integral component of overall well-being, affecting physical, emotional, and social health outcomes. We can and we must do better in Nevada. Nevada consistently reports higher rates of sexually transmitted infections such as chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis than the national average, with a significant proportion occurring in individuals under 24. The state's teen birth rate, preterm birth rate, and low birth weight rate exceed national averages, highlighting the need for improved sexual health education and resources. None of us, including our youth, are fully aware of the health impacts of sexually transmitted infections in teen pregnancy. As a student in medical school, the more I learn, the more I fear for our Nevada youth who are not getting communicable disease education from school or their parents. Sexually transmitted infections are hard to detect, yet they have long-term consequences. Chlamydia and gonorrhea, if left untreated, can increase the risk of contracting HIV, and in women can lead to pelvic inflammatory disease or PID. PID can lead to tubal blockage, ectopic pregnancy, infertility, and long-term pelvic and abdominal pain, and these are the realities OBGYNs experience with their patients every day. You may be aware that Nevada has the 5th highest syphilis rate in the nation. Syphilis, if left untreated, can seriously damage the heart and brain and can cause blindness, deafness, and paralysis. Congenital syphilis is a disease that can be transmitted in utero, creating lifetime health impacts for babies who survive. These include deformed bones, severe anemia, enlarged liver and spleen, brain and nerve problems like blindness or deafness, and meningitis. Tragically, up to 40% of babies who contract the disease may be stillborn or die from infection as a newborn. Dr. Tim McFerrin, an OBGYN and ACOG legislative leader, shares the anguish he has experienced when he has admitted a teen with pelvic inflammatory disease to the hospital. He wrote, "Knowing she may have permanent infertility, how do I answer her question, Doc, will I have children?" My own research gathered for this bill showed there are many health risks and costly social risks of teen pregnancy for both the parents and the child. For the teen parent, research shows lower likelihood of high school graduation for both teen mothers and teen fathers, and lower likelihood of economic self-sufficiency as adults. The psychological distress of teen mothers have been well documented. These are attributed to teen mothers having experienced childhood adversities or ACEs, and the challenges of parenting in the context of chronic stress, cumulative disadvantage, and limited social support. For the child of a teen mother, the CDC reports infants of teenagers aged 15 through 19 have the highest rate of mortality compared with infants of women aged 20 and over. My mother was a teen when she was pregnant with me, and we grew up with limited support. I remember as an elementary school student, she would take me to her classes at the local community college CSN, and we would attend together her GED classes as she was working hard to get her GED. So I know what this means for us. These risks are why we of ACOG believe sexual health education is so important. We see the change of Assembly Bill 205 will bring about as a matter of equity because vulnerable populations are at higher risk. Youth experiencing homelessness and those in foster care face unique barriers to sexual health education and pregnancy prevention services. Foster youth experience higher rates of STIs, pregnancy, and childbearing due to instability in supervision, living arrangements, and lack of coordination among agencies. Young women in foster care are twice as likely to become pregnant by the age of 19 compared to non-foster peers. In closing, as a representative of American College of OBGYNs, we greatly appreciate this opportunity to share our concerns with you. As a UNLV medical student, I strongly urge the committee to support this bill to reduce STI rates, teen pregnancies, and health disparities in Nevada.
Heather Goulding for the record. Thank you, Ms. Estrada. Let me now walk you through the details of AB 205 as it stands with a conceptual amendment before you today. Section 1, subsection 4. The bill maintains the requirement for schools to notify parents, but changes the parent's action from opting in to opting out. And importantly, the amendment requires parental notification during each school year in which instruction is offered. In subparagraphs 5A through 5C, these ensure clear, timely, and accessible notifications to parents about their right to refuse participation, and that they can opt their child out at any time during the school year. In closing, the core purpose of AB 205 is to help protect young people by ensuring they receive the education they need to make healthy choices, focusing on those with non-responsive parents. It reduces the burden on responsive parents and teachers with no change to parental rights. Nevada ranks among the top states for syphilis and HIV, and in the top quarter of states for gonorrhea and chlamydia. We can't afford to leave even a portion of our youth uninformed. I respectfully urge you to support AB 205 for the health and well-being of Nevada's children. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members, for the opportunity to present this important bill. We're happy to answer any questions you may have, and I would like to note that we are standing for questions, including on Zoom. In the Zoom room, we have Dr. Sandra Koch, also representing ACOG, and here in the audience, we have Sheila Story, who is the Chief Nurse of Carson City School District and Chair of the district's Family Life Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask members if you have any questions. Members, any questions? Okay, I'll start first with Assemblymember Lewer Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for bringing this bill today. So many people know I'm a high school teacher. Not everyone knows that I've only ever taught 10th grade or younger, and every single year of my career, I have had a student become a parent, including a student that is pregnant right now in my sophomore class. My question is, how might this change impact those situations and the teen pregnancy rate, and what are the consequences if we don't make that change?
Thank you, Assembly Member. We tried to find data that would compare teen pregnancy rates and STI rates amongst opt-in versus opt-out. So high school students that were receiving sexual ed curriculum and not. And that data was not available. We do know that there is a percentage of kids who are not getting appropriate health education simply because they're not, their parents aren't responding to the opt-in requirement. Our hope is that that gap will be filled, and if parents do indeed tend to provide education, sexual education to their kids on their own, that they're fully empowered to do that. But if it's an issue of parents being disengaged, that's a higher risk for those kids, and so we hope that it would reduce risk to those kids.
Thank you, Assemblymember Hansen.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here. We've had some good discussions, and just for the record, I know that all of us here are trying to find solutions to problems. And I think this is what's really hard, is when you really have respect for the people that are at the table, but you maybe disagree with how you're going to get there. And that's always hard. But so just so you know that when I start to go with my comments. So I have no doubt the intentions are good. What I'm here today, though, is we're here to be effective in our lawmaking. And I'm not convinced this is the way that we're going to be able to tackle some of the big problems that we're seeing with our youth, and even with just young adults in general, because that's where a lot of these sexually transmitted diseases, or STIs, I should say, are occurring in that population. So first, my concern is the state versus the local districts. I have 6 school districts in my district. I have 6 county commissions. I have 6 municipalities. A common refrain I hear from my constituents or those bodies is, please don't keep sending us more mandates from the state. Let us run our counties, let us have that local control. And so my overall concern with this bill is, again, a state mandate. And the history of the bill that I know that you're familiar with, but maybe for the rest of the audience and some of the new members is, this bill in some form or another, like we said, vetoed in 2017, brought again in 2019, didn't pass. Came again in 23, died in finance. And so this bill has been here and it's been vetted, and there just doesn't seem to have been an appetite for it. And in my humble opinion, I think a lot of it is that state control versus let the local school districts do.
Assemblymember Hanson, I had a question. Well, one, if you could get to the question, but I just want to be clear for the record that
Sure.
it's currently within the state control because we do opt out now.
Right. But
So I'm just wondering what, by state and local control, what do you mean by that since it's already in state control?
the idea that we're going to mandate from the state that it's an opt-in as the default rather than the opt-out, right? Did I get that right? The backwards. We're looking to have the default be, you are enrolled in comprehensive sex ed, and parents have to opt out.
Heather Goulding for the record. Yes, so there already is a state mandate. The state mandate is that parents must actively opt in. The change would be that rather than having 93%, which is that are currently opting in, which is required by state statute, that there would be the parents who opt out would need to actively opt out. So there already is a state mandate, and it wouldn't change the fact that there's a state mandate.
Yes, and thank you for asking me to clarify that. The concern being that we are essentially taking that ability from parents to be able to, it's a big shift. It's a big shift to have the default be that you are already opted in from the state. I'm sorry, I think there's a...
If I may add to that, Chair, through you to Assemblymember Hanson, and thank you. My name is Sarah Adler. So this bill, if you look at Section 5, Sub A and B, is seeking to make it as effective for school districts as possible to make this communication. So in A, 5A, it enables a school to use, for example, in Carson City Parent Square or in Clark County Canvas, that is the secure parent communication tool that the district uses now. And that's directly parent to the district. So they may choose now to use that as a communication tool. So at least they have some opportunity to decide in what way they will achieve what is already currently state law, parent notification. Then it does require in B, the language in 5 is entirely around be clear. It is entirely around be clear to the parents that they, if they do not wish the child to receive the education, they must sign, I refuse for my child to receive the education. But further, in 5C, you may at the beginning of the year have said, I not responded, which would mean I agree my child receives the education. But later in the year, concerns arise. At that point, you may communicate with the school, and for the rest of that school year, your child will not participate in the education. So the goal is clarity and opportunity to meet the mandate in a way that best meets the district's needs. Thank you.
Or do you want to ask? Thank you for that. And I guess when we look at what the percentage of that are participating, those are high percentages. You know, we've got, 92 or 93%, depending on, I think Washoe County has more people opting out and then maybe Clark, but overall, between the two biggest school districts, 90 percentile or more are participating, but yet our statistics are not improving. As I look at the syphilis, the gonorrhea, the chlamydia rates, I I'm wondering why are these increasing when we have 90-something% of students receiving comprehensive sex education in the schools, and that's a whole different discussion, right? It's about, yes, are they informed, but they make choices, and that's why I guess my biggest concern is I don't know that we're getting to there because we have more and more access to information, and yet our numbers seem to be worrisome. So again, with all due respect, those are my concerns. One last clarifying question. The Clark County stat was what was the percentage of the non-respondents, just to be clear?
Madam Chair, through you to Assemblywoman Hanson, Clark County actually gave us two numbers. In the current year, 1% of students were opted out. My child may not participate in the education, and 7% were non-response. However, Clark County gave us an average of the last school years since 2018-19 through this year. And again, 1% opted out, but 8% were non-response.
I'll get back to you, Assemblymember Hanson. Thank you. And I appreciate your passion for this topic and making sure that our students do have access to that comprehensive sex education, right? If only we could improve that information too. And, I think that there would be ways to do that through statute if we wanted to improve the information that was taught in that sex ed classes too. Members, additional questions? I'll go first to Assemblymember Koenig, and then I'll go to Assemblymember Flanagan.
So I'm kind of a numbers guy, and I'm looking at your numbers there in the back page in purple. We're keeping track of opt-outs when wasn't really even an option. I mean, the option was you opt in. If I didn't want my kid to go, I mean, you opt in, or if you do nothing, your kid wouldn't go. So doing nothing would say your kid wasn't going. Why would you need to opt out to double down and saying, so I'm not sure the opt-out numbers. I don't think too many people opted out. I think they just did nothing and it didn't happen. That's the same thing with the non-response. If my kid says, here's a form, if you sign this, I go to sex ed. If you do nothing, I don't go. There's a good chance I'm going to do nothing. And it's not because I didn't see it and I didn't care. It's just I knew the results of doing nothing was having my kid not go, which might have been what I wanted to begin with. So I'm not quite sure if these numbers really tell us anything or not. I guess that's a question, not really.
Thank you for the question, and I appreciate that. I'm also a person that looks at numbers all day, and that's exactly the kind of question that I typically will ask when I'm looking at statistics. Those numbers come from the school districts, and so the school districts reported that opt-out number and the non-response number. And I can tell you that the school district's permissions, for example, Washoe County's process requires the parent to say yes or no when they're registering their child. It's actually, Washoe is a great system because it takes an active decision when you register your child. I can only assume, based on the responses to the survey that was requested by LCB, that there was an active opt-out option. Otherwise, the school district would not have responded with a quantified number there.
Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Assemblymember Goulding, for the presentation. It sounds like there is an active effort to track. So with the change that you're automatically in and you're opting out, what does the picture look like or the effort look like to make sure due diligence is done to inform people, one, of the curriculum? Because if I'm a parent and I'm making a decision, are we changing or improving the way we're communicating what the children actually learn, what the parents are opting in or out of? And then how do you make sure, so you have this non-responsive. Used to be teachers, you said something about them tracking people down to make sure, so it's saving teachers time. is it now electronic? Like, what is going to make this more efficient when people opt out?
Thank you for the question. Heather Goulding for the record. Each district has their own process. They get to decide what their process is. For example, I described what's happening in Washoe County now. When a parent goes to register their child, they pick a button, one way or the other. Apparently 1% didn't select one of those choices, or there's some other way, some other reason why there's 1% in Washoe County that's non-responsive. In Clark County, not in Clark County, in Carson City, they're paper permission slips. We reached out to several districts to find out what exactly is the process. And it's important so that we have heard from teachers that they will follow up with multiple phone calls because those teachers want to make sure that they are responding appropriately to parents' wishes. So each district gets to make their own decision about how to do the opt-in or opt-out process. And the bill also addresses the importance of making sure that parents know that their students are enrolled in a curriculum that will include sexual education. So there's a requirement that is delivered in two different ways.
No, just
one different way.
It gives options for how
the parents are informed.
So to that end, will there be some requirement that it's clearly accessible on school district websites or anything like that?
Madam Chair, to Assemblywoman Flanagan, Sarah
Feel
Adler.
free to go directly to the members. You're great.
Okay, thank you, and I'll do that as Sarah Adler for the record. You're asking an excellent question, and that is within the purview of the local district to determine the best way to make the actual curricular material available to parents. It is a requirement that it is available to parents, but that is up to the district to decide how that will occur. But it's important, I imagine you're aware, each district has an advisory committee that is composed of a majority of parents as well as a range of professionals. A counselor, a religious person, a pupil is allowed on the committee. So that committee reviews proposed curricular material, but it is in fact the Board of Trustees that approves curricular material. But the way that material is made accessible to parents, that is the district's choice. Thank you.
Thank you. And is there any requirements in statute that require a certain timeline for notification of parents too? I wouldn't want a reality where a parent is getting notification of this a week or even right before a holiday weekend, and it's the class is gonna occur on Tuesday, right? So I'm just wondering if we can put some type of requirement that there has to be at least 30 days notice, and that there has to be a push via the student information system or whatever, like technology. I know online registration here is an option. I just want to make sure that there would be no reason why a family wasn't informed, right? Like it should be available on multiple different platforms, including the school website. I think to Assemblymember Flanagan's point.
Heather Goulding for the record. Thank you so much for that question. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you. And if there isn't, that would be a good addition.
Thank you. And another alternative might be even requiring the districts to do it if we wanted to empower local school districts. You could empower local school districts to create their own timeline of informing families and things like that and put a minimum of a certain deadline too. I'll go next to Assemblymember DeLong. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. That is my name. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate where you're going, and I think you have good intentions on trying to control STIs. But I'm looking at this from maybe more of a philosophical issue, that currently the opt-in leaves the control of the situation with the parents. The opt-out puts the control of the situation with the state or the district, however you want to phrase that. Would you view that the same way?
Heather Goulding for the record. Respectfully, I have to disagree. The parent has full control either way. The parent gets to say yes or no either way. I don't think there's any diminution of the parent's control at all.
Appreciate what you're saying. I fundamentally disagree because it's requiring the parent to do something. That means the state has control and the parent has to make a decision. Whereas now the parent is in control and the state has to make a decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I'll go ahead and go to Assemblymember, I'll go to Assemblymember Hanson and then I'll go to you, Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, for another opportunity. I'm just curious, when we are looking at how effective are we getting to these kids that we're worrying about? Because again, I think it's I'm glad you brought up Washoe County. I think that's kind of a gold standard about how to get the permission with only 1% non-responsive. But when we're looking at catching actually all of these kids, what effectiveness are we having in the education that's being taught? And maybe you've looked at this, but I pulled up the state epidemiology report. The most current one I could find was 2019. And when I look at chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis, the age group that is the biggest growth, and I mean it's all a concern, is the 20 to 29-year-olds consistently. So I'm wondering if we're targeting our education efforts, in whether it be community-based health programs, toward that age group. Like, to me, that's college kids, that's young adults. To me, that's where the focus should be, spending our time, our energies. I think we have enough of a comprehensive sex education program in the schools by every district account in the state. So again, just trying to say, are we looking at the epidemiology reports to really not dial in, if we want to have some sort of impact, and look at it, does it by race, by age, by sex, by gender, all of it, that we can then target our education to those groups. And it stands out really, really brightly in these reports where that help needs to be.
Thank you so much for the question. I first want to say, I think that we agree on so much of this issue. And I think that the folks that we've talked to, we invited the folks that we assumed would be opposition into conversations early. And what kind of surprisingly to me we found was that we agree on so much, that what we all are really concerned about is making sure that kids stay healthy, that young people stay healthy. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank the folks that we have engaged in conversation with for sharing their concern. As parents, we would all move heaven and earth to protect our children. On the issue of sort of the timing of when should we provide information? So certainly we all remember lessons that we learned in middle school and high school. And I would absolutely hope that information would be part of a young person's general knowledge base before they leave home, before they go to school. I certainly don't think that this information is only effective for the month or two or years surrounding when they receive the education. I certainly still remember information that I learned in middle school and high school and can still apply it. And I think that's the key, is making sure that you have the knowledge before you're in a situation where you need to implement it. Knowledge is power, and why would we rob our children of the opportunity of being fully informed?
And if I may add, Sarah Adler, for the record, again, Assemblywoman, I completely appreciate your remarks. But I also point out that in terms of this piece of statute, that's outside the scope. But to go back to an earlier point that you made about bills that have been vetoed. Those bills actually tried to address curriculum, what would and would not be taught. And that was a reason that those bills, one of the reasons that those bills failed, because there was not a desire for a mandate at a state level to determine what would or would not be taught. Fortunately, the Northern Nevada Health District is going to be coming to the table soon, and perhaps they will have more information about your concerns. Thank you.
Assemblymember Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Assembly Member, for this bill. I did have a bill last session that was automatic opt-in, but then an opt-out if students didn't want to be on the College and Career Readiness Diploma, and I thought that was an impactful way to do policy. So I thank you for this bill, and my question really is around the amendment, thinking about my experience when I was in the classroom a very long time ago, but how do you plan to execute what you talked about before, actually, if someone changes mid class that they want to be opted out now, how are you going to do that?
The how isn't necessarily within the scope of the bill, but there's, I think the key thing is that a parent has the right at any point in time to say, you know what, I think I'll take care of that at home. So the bill doesn't remove any timing, and you remove a parent's ability to change their mind at any point in time. There was another point that you made that I wanted to follow up on, but I can't remember it now.
Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to say thank you for bringing light to this conversation. Because as young people are navigating life these days, it's an oversensory experience for them, especially when it comes to sexuality. And a lot of times for young girls, they have it's a heavier burden to deal with STIs, STDs, and we want our young men to be healthy as well. But a lot of times young girls, their value is tied to how they're perceived physically. And it takes time to develop the maturity to understand where your value comes from. And when you have the additional burden of what hand you're dealt in life for some kids, be it broken homes, abuse, foster care, being in transition, not having a good role model, I think it is healthy to get education not from your peers, but from qualified sources. And I'm wondering if you can speak, as you develop the information to support this, if there's a look in those numbers of who's opting in and who's opting out, of what the households look like in terms of where those students are coming from to get this education. Because we, as a population of concerned parents, the mothers and the fathers who are having those conversations, maybe our 90-some-odd% aren't, or maybe the 7% that are in the gap or the 8% from the other year are part of that population that's a bit more at risk. I'd just like to know how the at-risk falls into this. Thanks.
Heather Golding, for the record, that's an excellent question. And I hope that data would be available. We certainly don't have it right now. I think that this also addresses Assemblymember Hansen's question that is asking the question about how are we effective? How can we be effective as policymakers? And that's a bigger question. Earlier today, we spoke about how there are some bigger questions here. This is one part. This is one tool to help keep our kids safe. I would love to know, and I hope that we can find out, where are the highest risk populations and how can we most effectively provide accurate information to those high risk populations. I think that's outside of the scope of this bill, and I would hope that our educators will pursue those questions.
If I may, Sarah Adler, I would just like to quickly add, the schools did not have the demographics on that 7 or 8% gap, and I agree with Assemblyman Koenig that perhaps they were not returned because that achieved the desired effect for that parent if I don't respond. But the national research shows some really sad things. A child who has experienced adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, is more likely to become a pregnant teen. And sadly, the baby is unfortunately more likely to experience a life of stress. So I'm excited by what Washoe County said about home visits and about having family graduation advocates. I think if we can build more trust between families and school systems, then maybe there will be more uptake on this important education.
As I may too, I want to add something. Mayor Estrada, for the record. So for CCSD, we're talking about 8% average not returning to form. We also have about 100,000 high school students and about 8%, right, of forms not getting returned. We have about 8,000 homeless youth in CCSD. So the numbers aren't correlated, but I would assume, right, that 8% is coming from homeless youth, and that's what we're advocating for here.
Thank you. I believe Assemblymember Hanson, did you have a question for legal?
Thank you. Mr. Killian, can we, do school districts right now, without this bill, can a school district now go to an opt-out the way things are right now?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So the short answer is no. Under NRS 389-036, as it's currently written, under state law, districts are required to have an opt-in system. So a district could not optionally go to an opt-out system since state law mandates which system they're required to use.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? It seems like we are good. Thank you so much for your presentation. At this time, we'll go into support. So just to be very clear on what the process will be, we'll do 30 minutes of support, then we will do 30 minutes of opposition, and then we will do 30 minutes of neutral. We will always go to people that are in person, either in Carson City and Las Vegas first, and then we will go to the phones. So for those of you calling on the lines, if you wish to participate, then you will be able to do so. But after all of the people that have made the trek to Carson City or the Las Vegas office, after those people have been exhausted. So at this time, I'm inviting anyone in Carson City or Las Vegas to go ahead and approach. We'll start first in Carson City. Once I have reached 15 minutes here in Carson City, I will allow for Las Vegas to have 15 minutes. If Las Vegas does not have 15 minutes, then I'll allow more people here in Carson City to go. But I know we have a lot of people signed in to speak today. I'm not necessarily sure if they're speaking in support or opposition at this time, so I'm just going to go ahead and go first to support. Please don't forget to state and spell your name for the record. Thank you. Please begin when you're ready.
Hi, good afternoon, committee chair and members of the committee. My name is Rebecca Acosta, A-C-O-S-T-A, and I'm here today as the executive director with A&J Patient Advocacy, which is in the Las Vegas area. I will be submitting my support for AB 205. In addition to the clinical information and the data presented today, I'd like to speak to you about how AB 205 can positively affect health literacy in our young people. As a board-certified patient advocate, I work with families to ensure their young person's health needs are met wherever they go, whether that's at home, in the community, at work, and absolutely at school. Oftentimes, I find myself needing to provide very basic health education to these families before we can start the process of addressing their child's actual health needs. Currently, Nevada ranks 45th in adult literacy, with health literacy presumably much lower. Health literacy is a critical component of an individual's ability to access, navigate, and utilize the healthcare system appropriately. Low health literacy rates contribute to improper use of the system, which results in millions of dollars of unnecessary healthcare expenditures every year. For example, young people are statistically most inclined to use the emergency room for non-emergency situations versus going to primary care or even urgent care. A large reason for this system misuse is very low health literacy. At a time when access to information is literally at our fingertips, I believe we have an ethical and moral obligation to ensure children and adolescents are receiving facts and learning skills that will benefit their future and the whole of society. The building blocks of health literacy certainly include scientific and evidence-based education of the human body and its systems, because without a correct understanding of their own body and their health, we certainly cannot expect young adults to then navigate the complex and ever-changing health system. I urge you to eliminate this roadblock for these young people to receive timely, factual, and scientific
Thank you for your
information.
testimony. We'll go ahead and go to the next.
Good afternoon, committee and chair. For the record, my name is Joelle Gutman Dodson with Northern Nevada Public Health, and I wanted to address Assemblywoman Hansen. If I don't have definitive answers for you, but I will say that sexual education is one tool in a toolbox. There's multiple ways that we get these kids education, but this is a really critical element for our most vulnerable kids that likely don't have that parental support or that connection to this kind of information that they need. But we can talk offline and be happy to. So Northern Nevada Public Health is here in support, and we just wanted to make a few points that sexual health education in schools provides access to critical health information that allows young people to make more informed decisions about sexual behaviors and associated risks that lead to better overall health outcomes. Increasing access to sexual health education is one part of providing life-saving information to young people, and the school setting may be the only opportunity for some people to receive sexual health education. As we discussed in this hearing, I have a lot of statistics about how high our rates are, and I'd be happy to talk to any of you offline about those. But I will just quickly state that these are 2023 Nevada rankings. We are number 5 for new human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. We are number 6 for congenital syphilis in Nevada. We are number 10 for primary and secondary syphilis. We're number 12 for gonorrhea, 19 for chlamydia, and we are ranked 24th for teen birth rates, 14 live births per 1,000 females aged 15 to 19 in Nevada. So we do have high rates, and they are all very expensive. They're expensive to treat, to...
Thank you, Ms. Dotson, for your testimony.
Okay. Thank you.
And also, I do see that you have written remarks, so if you wouldn't mind submitting that to our committee staff so that we can have it on Nellis. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Alexander Marks with the Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 125 years across all 17 counties. NSCA supports AB 205 to change the parental permission process for sex education from opt-in to opt-out. Currently, Nevada educators provide age-appropriate instruction on human reproduction, sexually transmitted diseases, and sexual responsibility, courses that empower students with medically accurate information to make informed decisions and protect themselves. These courses are critical to provide accurate information to help protect our teens and youth from disease and unwanted pregnancy. Yet under the current opt-in system, students whose parents fail to respond are excluded from these critical classes, not because of parental choice, but because of bureaucratic barriers. AB 205 will streamline the parental notification process, ensuring all students can access this essential education while giving parents the ability to opt out. We ask for your support of Assembly Bill 205. Thanks.
Madam Chair, my name is Brian Wallace, WALLACE. I am the Vice President and a teacher representing the members of the Nevada State Education Association, who has been the voice of educators statewide. This is on behalf of Annie Maritet, who teaches at Eagle Valley Middle School here in Carson City. The current opt-in process is overly restrictive. For example, last semester, 4 students were excluded from sex ed, not because their parents opted them out, but because the required forms were never submitted and the students would never remember to resubmit them to parents. One student who enrolled a week before sex ed started was unable to participate due to the opt-in requirement. Similarly, a student who both wanted and needed to participate was excluded because his mother, despite sending a parent square message allowing his participation, did not fulfill the opt-in policy by submitting the Family Life Advisory Committee permission slip, which has to be signed and on paper. This student who struggled with attendance had been motivated to come to school by having health class during his first period. His attendance then dropped after learning he would not be allowed to participate in the class. The current opt-in requirement creates unnecessary administrative burdens, such as chasing down students to remind them to have permission slips signed, reprinting permission slips over and over, and contacting frustrated parents who don't understand why it must be on paper. This delays the students' access to important education. AB 205 addresses these issues by removing these barriers, ensuring that all students, regardless of their family's levels of involvement, can receive the essential lessons offered in sexual education without unnecessary delays. This change would create a more efficient system, providing every student with the opportunity to benefit from this critical education while preserving a parent's ability to still opt out. On a personal note, something not mentioned is the impact on our school counselors. The percent of students who never respond have to be rescheduled into classes someplace within the building, which then goes on to impact our class sizes. NSA members encourage you to pass AB 205. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Shaver here today on behalf of the Washoe County School District. It is my pleasure to be here on the second time today. Thank you for having me. The Washoe County School District has built what they call the SHARE program. That is a program that was built in consultation with parents and families within the district. There is a parent committee that informs these decisions and what the curriculum looks like and so forth. From there, it is built into Infinite Campus in Washoe County. You just check a box when you register your kids for school. With that system, we see about 1% of parents opt their children out, and about 98.3% enroll their children in. Disturbingly, 0.7% provide no answer at all when we have made it as easy as possible for them to do so. These are going to be the same families that don't ever go to register their kid, the kids we don't know about. They just show up on the first day of class. And of course, it is our role as a school district to educate everybody. I shudder to think about the other supports they're not getting from parents who are not able to do that for whatever reason. Nevertheless, for the teachers in those situations, they took that job for a pretty straightforward reason, and that's to teach. We want to make sure, whatever the topic is, that our professional personnel have the ability to get that instructional message out to as many students as possible. We appreciate Assemblymember Golding for taking on what will surely be a controversial topic in your committee, but we wanted to make sure clearly that we are supportive of this effort and making the changes required.
Hello, Chair Torres Fawcett and members of the Assembly Education Committee. My name is Carissa Pierce, and I represent the Children's Advocacy Alliance. We are a nonpartisan, independent organization, independent voice for Nevada's children, with a mission to ensure that every child in Nevada thrives. And I'm in strong support of AB 205, which would allow for more students to have access to the critical information that they need to make healthy and informed decisions. Comprehensive sexual education goes beyond preventing pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. It teaches critical life skills like consent, communication, and healthy relationships, which are essential for teen mental health and long-term well-being. When young people learn about mutual respect, setting boundaries, and recognizing unhealthy relationship dynamics, they are better equipped to navigate personal relationships, safety, and confidence. Studies show that sexual education that includes lessons on consent and relationship skills can help reduce the rates of intimate partner violence and sexual assault later in life. By empowering youth with the knowledge to build respectful, healthy relationships, we are not only supporting their mental and emotional well-being, but we also take an important step toward reducing domestic violence and fostering safer communities for future generations. Passive consent for sexual education ensures that students are included in these essential lessons while still respecting parental choice. An opt-in requirement creates unnecessary barriers, disproportionately affecting students from families who may not have the time, resources, or awareness to complete the extra paperwork. The result, the students who need this information most are the least likely to get it. And this bill captures the students who have parents who are not actively involved in their child's education. This bill is a system for simple and effective healthcare, and we urge you to support it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I am Casey Docena, Kasey Docena, and I am the Public Policy Intern at the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence, NCE-DSV, and I am here to testify in support of AB 205. Comprehensive and age-appropriate sex education is violence prevention programming, and best practices show that opt-out policies produce better success outcomes for our students. Opt-in policies create unnecessary hurdles and are designed to make accessing sex education more difficult. Nevada is currently one of 4 states that have opt-in policies, meaning our students are missing critical, empowering education and essentially allowing sexual assault prevention to be an option. Opt-out policies also reach more students and reduce barriers for our most at-risk youth. Without sex education, our students do not understand how their body is changing, how to protect themselves, or how to name harmful acts of violence. Making this information accessible in safe environments will allow students to make informed decisions about their sexual health and know when and where to reach out for help should they need it. We urge this committee to prioritize the safety of success for our students and pass AB 205. Thank you.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Annie Vong. Annievong. I'm an intern with Cartwright NV Government Affairs. We represent Nevada Public Health Association, and NPHA is the voice of public health in Nevada. We support all efforts to expand access to comprehensive sex ed for Nevada students, and that type of education provides developmentally appropriate, evidence-based, and medically accurate information on human sexuality and reproduction. Under AB 205, school districts and their trustees would remain responsible for developing sex ed curriculums, and parents and guardians of pupils would retain sole authority to permit or refuse that pupil to participate in sex ed instruction. NPHA fully supports AB 205 and access to sex ed in programs that, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, have demonstrated success in reducing rates of STIs and adolescent pregnancy. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Stephanie Cook, and I serve on the Family Life Advisory Committee for the Carson City School District. I'm here today to express my strong support for AB 205, which seeks to revise provisions governing sex education in our schools. As a member of the Family Life Advisory Committee, I have witnessed firsthand the critical role that comprehensive education plays in equipping our students with the knowledge and skills they need to make informed decisions about their health and well-being. AB 205 proposes important updates to the current approach, ensuring that our educational content remains relevant and effective in addressing the challenges our youth face today. One of the key aspects of AB 205 is its emphasis on the opt-out process for parents and guardians. This approach assumes student participation in sexual education unless a parent or guardian explicitly chooses to withdraw their student from the program. This method is particularly significant for students who may not have active parent involvement in their education. By implementing an opt-out system, we ensure that all students receive essential information unless a conscious decision is made otherwise, therefore safeguarding the educational rights of those who might otherwise be overlooked. Research indicates that passive consent or opt-out consent is effective in educational settings, especially when active parental engagement is limited. Furthermore, the opt-out model aligns with practices in other educational contexts. In conclusion, AB 205 represents a thoughtful and balanced approach to education in Nevada. By adopting an opt-out process, we respect parental rights while ensuring that all students have access to vital health information. This legislation not only modernizes our educational standards, but also promotes the well-being of our youth, particularly those who may lack active parent involvement in their educational journey. I urge your support on this bill.
Thank you. Before I switch, can I see how many people are in Las Vegas that wish to testify in support of AB 205? Can you just raise your hands? Oh, okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and stay in Carson City to finish out, and then I'll be able to go to Las Vegas. Go ahead.
Hello, Council. Thank you for having me. My name is Jessica Glover, Jessica Glover. And I'm here today to AB 205. I hope that you pass that. As a Washoe County School District graduate, I remember being in the sex ed and how much I learned from that. I also was enrolled in child development. So child development and sex ed played a whole process of this is what can happen if you have intercourse, along with the health risks. Assembly Member Flanagan, you had a great question about the percentage of students that are high risk, that are in dysfunctional families or whatnot. And, I just have an idea, knowledge is our power, and we send our children to school to learn. And part of learning is learning about everything. And opting out of something that's teaching you about your body to be safe just doesn't seem reasonable as a parent. Why I would not want my child to learn about health reproductive system. So instead of this opting in and opting out, why don't we just put it on the agenda to just teach it? Thank you.
Thank you. And it does appear that we recommended a change to the piece of legislation, which would be like an amendment. So I am going to go ahead and classify that testimony as opposition because you're recommending a change to the bill. But thank you so much for your testimony. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Torres Fawcett, Vice Chair De Silva, and members of the Assembly Education Committee. My name is Jacqueline Nguyen, Nguyen, and I represent the Nevada State Medical Association, the oldest and largest organization representing physicians in our state. NSMA supports a scientifically valid, medically accurate, evidence-based curriculum in sexual education that is age-appropriate, comprehensive, and opt-out. Therefore, today we're in support of AB 205. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else here in Carson City, so I will invite anybody wishing to testify in support of AB 205 in Las Vegas. I don't see anybody rushing to the table in Las Vegas. ABH, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of AB 205?
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 205, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Again, if you wish to testify in support, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window.
Thank you. My name is Leanne McAllister. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. The most important step in keeping youth safe is prevention, and there are key things about body autonomy that schools can and should teach our children to reduce the chances they will fall prey to a sexual predator. Removing the burden of having to opt in allows all children to have access to this critical information while still giving parents reserving the right to opt out if they wish to. The idea that any adult would sexually abuse a child is terrifying, especially for parents and caregivers. But like any risk youth might face, we need to be able to empower them with information that will help them recognize unsafe situations. Child abuse is widespread, and what's more, abusers are usually someone the child knows. Children frequently will not disclose their abuse, but when they do, they often don't tell a parent. They relay the information to another trusted adult like a health or sex teacher. I urge you to pass AB 205, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ma'am, could you also spell your name for the record?
Leanne, Leann, McAllister, McAllister.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Torres Fawcett and committee members. My name is Matt Turner, and I am the father of 2 daughters. I came here to strongly support making sex ed opt out instead of opt in. As a parent of daughters, I want them to grow up confident, informed, and empowered. And while I obviously will give them information here, I know they'll seek it out in other ways. And so other avenues to achieve that information through professional means is very important. I think many people on this call have talked about the benefits, and it doesn't sound like there's a lot of opposition to the benefits. It's really about whether or not there should be an opt-in or opt-out policy. So I won't go into all that. I would consider myself the data person. There was a gentleman, and I'm sorry, I'm on the phone, so I didn't hear who said that talked about data, and he made some good points about the 5%. We don't know who those 5% are. I think we have to assume that some of those 5% are active or parents that are not actively involved. But even if we assume that they decided to opt out, at best, we're looking at, from all the numbers on this call, 92% to 98% if you're in Washoe County want this type of education for their kids. I even understand the perspective of allowing local school districts to do what they want to do. But right now, apparently, we have a state mandate that says you have to have this policy. And so I would just ask the committee to consider why we have a policy that accommodates the 1 to 8% when this is no longer a controversial topic. So I would like you to consider this bill, and I'm strongly in support. Thank you so much.
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but there are no more callers choosing to testify in support at this time.
Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and go to opposition. Anyone wishing to testify in opposition here in Carson City? And like we did with support and opposition previously, I'll go ahead and start here in Carson City. We'll do 15 minutes here in Carson City, and then I'll go to Las Vegas. And if there's another 15 minutes in Las Vegas, we'll keep going. Can you raise your hand in Las Vegas just so I have an idea of how many people are wishing to testify in opposition to this piece of legislation? All right, perfect. It looks like we have about 15 minutes there too. So we'll go ahead and start here. That's just to help you all with timing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. For the record, Melissa Clement of Nevada Right to Life, MELISSACLEMENT, and I'm testifying today in opposition to AB 205. Nevada Right to Life supports parents' rights as parents know their child, know their level of maturity, and their readiness for sex ed. AB 205 proposes a shift in how parental consent is handled for sex ed in Nevada schools. Instead of requiring parents to actively opt in for their child to participate, the bill changes the system to an opt-out model. Parents would be provided with a form to refuse consent rather than to give it. Parents who miss the notification, whether it's in a pile of paper sent home from school or in amongst many pages and forms that a parent navigates online during registration, may unknowingly have their child enrolled in a course they would have otherwise opted out of. Sex ed, it's different than all other subjects taught in our schools. There is no morality in math, and often a teacher knows better than the parent whether a child has the maturity to handle upcoming math concepts. It's exactly opposite with sex ed. Parents know their child's maturity and readiness for topics discussed in sex ed. Opt-in, the current system, errs towards the parents and the children. Each child is different, even in the same family, as Assemblywoman Hansen could probably attest. A school, a teacher, a legislature cannot weigh each child's innocence versus readiness. Parents can and do. Parents have the ability to consider a child's maturity and the family's moral and religious beliefs. The government cannot. Much of today's discussion has focused on high school, maybe even middle school, but it is imperative to remember that sex ed starts in 4th grade in Washoe County. What is the damage caused by a child accidentally attending sex ed? Innocence. A child's innocence is a little like virginity. Once it's punctured, it can't be restored.
Thank you for your testimony.
Can I please finish just a little bit
No,
longer?
but please do submit your written remarks. If I do it for you, I have to do it for everybody. Thank you so much.
Understood.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. This has long been a controversial issue in Nevada, probably back to 1995, if I can remember right. I think it's important to know that this is a parental rights issue. The Constitution's 14th Amendment protects the fundamental right of parents to raise their children. This includes the right to make decisions about their children's care, education, and custody. This promotes proactive parenting. In Nevada in 2013, in NRS 126036, there was a parental rights bill passed. The liberty interest of a parent in the care, custody, and management of the parent's child is a fundamental right. We consider this to be a fundamental right, and we consider this issue of opting in or opting out a significant and important issue. And it isn't a small thing to us. We want to remember that we want to encourage parents to be proactive. We want to encourage and empower parents to be proactive. And just as Assemblyman Koenig said, a non-response does not mean that the parents have not made a response. Under this law, a parent is not required to make a response if they don't want their child in the class. And I think that's important to remember that that was their response. I think it's also important to remember what Assemblyman DeLong said about the difference between recognizing the rights of the parents and the rights of the school district or the government. We appreciate your consideration of this, and remember that parents have the primary right to control their children, and we want to encourage them to be actively engaged, not discourage that by changing this opt-out policy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Joy Trushensky, non-paid lobbyist, Navy veteran. Please vote no on AB 203, which means parents must opt out of the sex education taught in our public schools from K through 12 instead of the current opt-in. Enrollment in public schools is declining because of what schools are teaching our children at an early age and what they are not. Comprehensive public school sex education, to me, is pushing homosexuality, transgenderism, abortion, and other anti-traditional family ideas. Parents are responsible for the sex education of their children, not government. I saw what was being pushed in the last legislative session, which was sex education backed by Planned Parenthood. Please stop the sexualization of our children in our schools. Our public schools are failing. Why aren't the majority of our children reading and calculating math at their grade levels? It is because the curriculum and teaching methods are lacking. We need to go back to traditional teaching methods and curriculum. We need to go back to teaching the basics. Children do not need to be taught about sex in grade school. As a Christian, it is a moral issue. Parents have the responsibility, not the state. Please keep the opt-in option. Vote no on AB 205. Thank you for your time. Bye.
You guys are timing these perfectly, so thank you so much. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. For the record, my name is Joshua Skaggs, Joshua Skaggs, and I am the Legislative Director for the Nevada Republican Party, here today in opposition to AB 205. Changing Nevada's sexual education opt-in policy, which requires specific parental consent to participate, to an opt-out system adds an extra step for a parent to refuse attendance. This is not good policy because parents should know in advance what classes their children are taking and, more importantly, the content of the curriculum. AB 205 could circumvent parental authority over sex education, which could expose students to controversial or sensitive topics such as abortion, sexual responsibility, and gender identity. As an example, many parents believe the science that there are two genders, male and female, and their position is supported by President Donald J. Trump's executive order signed on January 20th, 2025. While we urge school boards to include this biological fact in their sex education curriculum, we are aware that school curriculum is often driven by outside special interest groups with whom half or more Nevada parents disagree. We believe that parents should be required to opt in to curriculum that they may disagree with, and we urge a no vote on AB 205. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Bob Russo for the record. And the last name is spelled R-U-S-S-O. I'm here in opposition to AB 205. I have some concerns about this going from opt-in to opt-out. I'm really concerned that there's going to be parents out there that are not going to understand this completely, the change. And as a result of that, their kids are going to end up in this course when they don't want them to be in it. So I think leaving it alone as an opt-in option avoids any potential confusion and should remain in place. I also want to ditto what Assemblymember DeLong said, that this bill places control away from parents and into the hands of the state. And on a broader scale, it appears to me that the state with their sex ed program is doing the job that parents should be doing. And going a bit further, teaching them the importance of sexual abstinence and restraint and strong boundaries. And for these reasons and many others that have already been mentioned, I oppose this bill and I ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Bruce Foster, B-R-U-C-E-F-O-S-T-E-R, granddad of 8 grandchildren, many of which are elementary school age, so therefore I need to speak on this as both parents are working for the most part, and they have enough on their plate. Tens of millions of America's tax dollars go towards Planned Parenthood sexualization education programs. They told parents this will prevent unplanned pregnancies and increase knowledge of safe sex and all the other issues that were mentioned. So therefore, we must oppose AB 205, and we must maintain parental guidance and parental rights in determining what the best options are for their children. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else here in Carson City. So I will go ahead at this time to Las Vegas. So please begin when you're ready.
Hello.
Good afternoon. You go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jill Douglas, Douglass, and I'm just here today as a concerned citizen living in Assembly District 37. Thank you, Chair Torres Fawcett and the members of this committee for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I stand here before you today to express my opposition to Assembly Bill 205, which proposes to revise current provisions regarding sexual education in our state. A lot of the discussion today seems to be centered around a curriculum when in fact the curriculum already exists. Comprehensive sexual education already exists, and a change to current policy isn't going to address some of the problems and concerns that we all have for our children. A lot of these problems are a result of issues within our society, but I definitely agree with Assemblyperson DeLong and Assemblyperson Hansen for their concerns, because when I look at this bill, it seems to me that it is going from a process where parents don't have to do anything, like I don't have to return the consent for my child to go on a field trip. Parents are very busy and working, and the fact that they don't have to take action means that they will be responsible parents for teaching their children the things that they want their children to know. It's not the job of the school system or the government to parent, to be the parent in this situation. This system where you would change it to an opt-out means that all students would be automatically enrolled, and then their working parents would have to go through the process of actively withdrawing them. I do acknowledge the importance of comprehensive sexual education, but again, the concerns are the erosion of parental rights, the potential for reduced parental awareness. Even the process of the bill, when I read it, it
Thank
talked
you for
about
your
an
testimony.
online form.
Ma'am, thank you for your testimony. We'll go ahead and go to the next
Thank you
person.
very much.
Thank you. If you have written remarks, please provide it to the committee staff there.
Good afternoon, Assemblymember Torres Fawcett and Education Committee members. My name is Sheila Moulton, S-H-E-I-L-A, M-O-U-L-T-O-N. Assemblymember Considine is my representative. I'm a former 12-year CCSD trustee. I have lived in Las Vegas for 47 years. My 6 children attended and currently have 5 of my 21 grandchildren attending CCSD schools. I oppose AB 205, and I have worked for decades to ensure that parents have the opt-in for the sex education of their children. Opt-in requires that parents give their consent for their children to the sex education being offered. Families should not have to opt out of classes to ensure their children do not have instruction they do not wish them to have. Please preserve the status quo to opt in for sex education offered as families' desires. Interestingly enough, during the testimony, I've seen no data that would change the statistics offered, and I have certainly listened to the local control issue. I thank you all for your public service. Please let family choice be paramount in our children's education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, too. I believe you were a former school board trustee in Clark County.
Good afternoon, Chair Torres Fawcett and members of the committee. My name is Erin Phillips, co-founder and CEO of Power to Parent Union, and I'm also a parent. I'm here today to strongly oppose AB 205, which threatens to erode the fundamental rights of parents to provide informed consent before their children are exposed to lessons on sexual health and other sensitive topics. Nevada's have made their position clear. They want to be fully informed and directly involved when it comes to what their children are taught and about human sexuality. In fact, you've heard the numbers. About 95% of parents currently return the sex education permission slips, with 93% actively opting their child into these lessons. This level of engagement proves that Nevada parents are responsible, informed, and fully capable of making decisions for their own families. We've expressed to the bill sponsor that we also fully support putting permission slips online, along with all lesson plans and curriculum materials, so parents can easily access and review them before giving consent. We believe this would increase participation, capture more permission slips, and also empower parents to be informed and engaged partners in their child's education. But we can't have it both ways. If we are about student health, safety, and academic outcomes, we must empower parents to be the true partners in their child's education. This means ensuring parents are not only aware of, but have access to all curriculum materials related to sexual health education before instruction begins. And it means requiring affirmative parental consent, not passive opt-outs when these topics are covered. I would ask the committee to consider this. Imagine if the other data points we track in schools, like proficiency rates or attendance rates, were at 95%. That would be a cause for celebration. And yet here we have 95% parental engagement in sex education decisions. And instead of building on that success, AB 205 really seems to weaken it. Research consistently shows that students with actively engaged parents are healthier, more successful, and less likely to engage in risky behaviors. Parents are not barriers to comprehensive
Thank you for your
education
testimony
or health education.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you for your time.
Please make sure you provide any written remarks to our committee staff so we could have those posted online as well.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Karen Hardy, Karen Hardoy, and I'm a parent. I'm here today to strongly oppose AB 205, which seeks to change Nevada's sex education policy from an opt-in system to an opt-out system. This bill undermines parental rights, reduces transparency, and shifts the responsibility of oversight away from parents, placing it solely on the school system. Nevada's current opt-in law ensures that parents are actively engaged in decisions about their children's education, particularly on sensitive topics like human sexuality. Opt-out policies assume parental consent by default, which increases the likelihood that a student will be exposed to material their parents may not have reviewed or approved. Parents oppose this change for several reasons. One, parental rights and oversight. Parents have the fundamental right to direct their children's education. AB 205 weakens the right by removing the clear, informed decision-making process currently in place. Two, transparency and accountability. The opt-in system requires schools to provide parents with curriculum details before instruction occurs. Opt-out policies often rely on passive notification, which means parents may miss or not fully understand. The CCSD has reported that over 90% of the signed permission slips are returned. Over 90% of students are participating in sex education portion of health. Parent appreciate giving consent and being informed. 3, sensitive and controversial content. Sex education varies widely in content and approach. Parents should have the ability to review and approve the material before it is presented to their children, rather than being forced to opt out after the fact. 4, burden on families. Not all parents receive school communications in timely manner. Opt-out policies place
Ma'am,
the
thank you for your
burden on
testimony.
families.
Thank you for your testimony. Please provide written remarks to the committee staff.
Okay, my name's Tim Underwood. I'm a grandfather of 5 children in this valley. I've been going to CCSD schools since 1965. AB 205 is a direct attack on Nevada families. The bill dilutes the agency of about 80% of the voting population and impedes the sanctity of the family. Nevada's hyper-credentialed elites, the upper 20% of income earners who dominate the Democrat Party and heavily influence Republicans, have gone radical on the working class and their families. They wage war on the lower 80%, the vast majority of your constituents, with laws like AB 205. Explicit permission for sex education is in the working class family's interest, allowing parents to decide on the private inner workings of their family. This bill switches the agency from the parent to the government, deliberately stripping parental authority. Families in Nevada must remain free from government propaganda that currently allows school authorities the ability to secretly socially transition minor school children towards child castrations before the parent even knows their child questions their sexual identity. This bill adds to the sexual chaos that Nevada students currently suffer under. For instance, the Clark County School District has already placed over 300 school children on gender plans to be supported to castrate themselves. This leads to increased student suicide and terrible pain and suffering for the family. I'll include the documents to prove that from CCSD on the website. Now, since only 20% of voters support radicalized progressive sexual views, I respectfully suggest that you kill this bill if you wish to be reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. And threats to members of the legislature is just not appropriate. Next, please.
Hi, thank you. My name is Grace Trujillo. I'm a mother of 3 boys, and I represent Moms for Liberty. I agree with everyone, and I oppose AB 205. The current opt-in system allows parents to give informed consent for their children's participation in sex education, upholding parental rights and aligning education with their religious and moral beliefs. Contrast to AB 205 will automatically enroll students unless parents opt out, weakening family oversight and shifting control to the state. Parents must guide their children to grow strong and safe through faith, family, and education. And we all want them to make choices that honor their values. Not obtaining explicit consent from parents undermines the essence of parental responsibility, which is in biblical teachings like Ephesians 6:4 affirm that God entrusts parents with nurturing their children's souls. And passive consent is not consent and violates a parent's rights. Opt-in consent is essential to honor parents as stewards. In Islam, parents are tasked with raising children with God consciousness, and passive consent betrays these duties. While some believe all kids need sex education for safety, parents seek teaching on abstinence and respect for their body align with their beliefs, and schools should respect these rights rather than impose inflicting lessons. This is about freedom of faith. Families should pass their own values without interference, and conservatives desire sex education framed with their values, prioritizing parental responsibility over a secular curriculum. In closing, if someone forced your child to hear a worldview that mock your beliefs, would you feel free? Why shouldn't conservative faith and their children's upbringing be equally protected? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Deborah Earl, E-A-R-L. I'm a mom of 5 children, and I appreciate opt-in because it not only keeps parents informed as to the timing of the lessons, it keeps parents involved in the process. Because of opt-in, I know the timing of these lessons, and I can talk to my children about what they learned. ask them about it, and inculcate our views and values in those critical conversations. At a time when trust is at an all-time low, we need to maintain opt-in because it respects the role of parents in the education of their children. Thank you.
Seeing nobody else in Carson City or in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to AB 205, we will go to the phones. I'll remind callers to please make sure you state and spell your name. We will go on the phones till about 4:35. AVH, is there anyone on the line?
Testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 205, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Again, if you wish to testify in opposition, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window. Caller with the last 3 digits, 832, you are unmuted on our end. Please check that you are unmuted on your end and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Assembly Member Torres Fawcett and Education Committee members. My name is Jennifer Raines, last name Vranes. Assembly Member Urick is my representative. I am a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 6. And I have lived in Henderson since 2007, and I oppose AB 205. Opt-in policies ensure that parents maintain control over their children's exposure to sensitive topics, allowing them to decide when and how their children learn about sexual health. This approach respects the primary role of parents in guiding their children's moral and educational development. Please respect the role of the parent and oppose AB 205.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa DeGraffenreid, Teresa, T-H-E-R-E-S-A, DeGraffenreid, D-E-G-R-A-F-F-E-N-R-E-I-D, and I am calling to ask you to vote no on AB 205. I'm in agreement with, in part or wholly, with every person that has already spoken, but I would add one thing. Parents are the best decision makers for their children and have the right for their children to be educated consistent with their family's beliefs. That, excuse me, that education curricula is often set under the advice of outside special interest groups and therefore doesn't align with the beliefs of as much as half of Nevada's parents. An opt-in system allows specific oversight by parents. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christiane Mersch, last name M-E-R-S-C-H. I'm here on behalf of Nevada Right to Life. I'm also board member of Moms for Liberty, and I'm here in opposition of AB 205. We are here to ensure that parents, not the schools, that make the final decision on their children's sex education. AB 205 weakens parental authority over sex education by removing the requirement for active consent. Parents have a fundamental right to direct the upbringing and education of their children, not the state. Parents are the best ones and best caretakers for their child, unless proven unfit. Our nation consistently maintains that parents possess this fundamental right to raise their children. State legislators should take action to allow students, parents to opt in rather than opt out. This model works better, is more ethical, and is more efficient for the parents being in control. Opt-in is better for gaining collective data. A lot of parents don't have the time and they can get misunderstanding when it's opt-out. A student survey have become disguised in schools under the broad umbrellas of social emotional learning, school climate, and inclusion. And these surveys and screener sometimes creates confusions. Under federal law, parents must be notified of their right to opt their children for these surveys. Please vote no in AB 205.
Ma'am, can you please state your name again?
Christiane Mersch, Christianemersch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Yolanda Canuck, Yolanda, last name Knaak. Madam Chair and committee, I just wanted to echo everything people are saying, especially Assembly members Hanson and DeLong. And I am opposed to this bill. I'm opposed to AB 205. And I have to mention one more thing, is that a lot of the things that people were saying, oh, you know, it's causing STDs, it's causing other things. They don't have any proof of that. You have to look at other factors. There's other factors. There's access to health. There's people move from other areas to Nevada. They may have not even gone to school here. So I think you have to really keep the law as it is. And I agree with the legal counsel that the law, that what you're doing is changing the law, and I don't want to see that changed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take one more caller. Go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Lorena Biasotti. I am a CCSD school board member, but today I am representing myself as an individual. I stand firmly against changes to our sex education. Throughout my months of campaigning, I had the opportunity to speak to hundreds, if not thousands of parents, and the consensus is clear. Parents feel ostracized when it comes to sensitive topics concerning their children in public schools. Changing parental permission to opt out means many students can potentially receive progressive sex education without parents' agreement. This is not okay. Given the current sentiment, it's crucial for parents to feel assured that they maintain control over these decisions by knowing that it is not a possibility that their children will be exposed to explicit sexual topics without their consent, and that their authority will not be undermined under any circumstance, including when simply forgetting to sign an opt-out slip. For that reason, I urge you to vote no on AB 205. We are seeing a drop in enrollment in public schools and an increase in private schools, where these topics are discussed only under the careful guidance and discretion of parents. We need to rebuild trust in public schools, and this bill does not contribute to that effort. Thank you for your time.
Ma'am, before you leave, can you please state and spell your name again for the record?
Yes, Lorena Biasotti is LORENA BIASSOTTI.
Thank you. At this time, we will go ahead and close our opposition, and we will move on to neutral testimony. Is there anybody here in Carson City wishing to testify neutral? I do not see anybody here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify neutral? AVH, is there anyone on the line that would like to testify in neutral? This means that there is no support, no opposition, no recommended changes.
To testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 205, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers choosing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite the bill sponsor for any closing remarks.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. Heather Goulding for the record. Thank you so much, all of you. It's been a long hearing on this one, and I appreciate the opportunity to present the bill and to have this valuable conversation with all of you, and I hope that we can continue the conversation. I think the thing that's clear is that parents care deeply about the health and well-being of their children, and I think that focusing on those shared values is super important. ACOG brought this bill because of the devastating effects of STIs in teen pregnancy and the hope that making sure that all kids have access to this important education could help reduce those impacts. AB 205 maintains parental rights and it maintains parental notification. Chair, I think you had an excellent suggestion on specifying some sort of timing on the notification, so we make sure that parents are notified certainly in time to be able to opt out if they want to. And thank you again so much, and I encourage you to support the passage of AB 205.
Thank you. At this time, I'll go ahead and close the hearing on AB 205, and I'll invite anybody wishing to testify in public comment here in the committee. As a reminder, public comment is not a continuation of the hearing of the legislation, but on other issues that may address our committee. Please don't forget to state and spell your name for the record.
John Eppolito. In September 2018, the FBI issued a public service announcement titled, Education Technologies, Data Collection and Unsecured System Could Pose Risk to Students. Please take 5 minutes to read it. In March 2019, when Google was in Washington, D.C. to testify, a young U.S. Senator told them, quote, "Here's my basic concern. Americans have not signed up for this. They think the products you're offering them are free. They're not free. They think that they can opt out of the tracking you're performing. They can't meaningfully opt out. It's kind of like that old Eagles song. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That's kind of what it's like dealing with your company. And that's a problem for the American consumer. It's a real problem. And for somebody who has 2 small kids at home, the idea that your company and others like it are sweeping up information to build a user profile on them that will track every step, every movement, and monetize that, and they can't do anything about it, and I can't do anything about it, that's a big problem that this Congress needs to address." End quote. Since that hearing, nothing has been done to prevent the Googles of the world from collecting, storing, and sharing our children's personal data and creating profiles on our kids. This session, Google has 15 paid lobbyists here in Nevada. This session, Protect Nevada Children will again attempt to protect the data and future of Nevada children, and once again, Google will fight us. The question is, what will you do? ProtectNevadaChildren.org.
Thank you. Please provide any written comments to our staff. I don't see anybody here in Carson City. Go ahead in Las Vegas. Please begin when you're ready.
My name is Jill Douglas. I appreciate the opportunity to just ask a question, so I address this to the chair. I noticed that several members of the committee have been noticeably absent during the testimony.
I apologize. We don't take questions during public comment, but feel free to reach out to me via email as a note to members of the public, though sometimes members do have to step out once to use the restroom or to take care of their personal needs, but also because we have
they've
other...
just been gone the whole time, but I'll reach out.
We don't have
Thank
anybody
you.
that, ma'am, we don't have, please, no further comment from Las Vegas. But just to be very clear, we have no members of this committee that have been out the whole time. I do have several members that had to go to the Committee on Revenue or that had to go to the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. So just so that's clear for the record, we do have members that had to step out. And I think that is across party lines. Sometimes we have other committees and we have the legislative duty to report to those committees as necessary. So thank you so much for your eagerness to understand the process. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to the phones. Is there anyone wishing to testify in public comment on the phones?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no, oh, one moment.
Yeah, Yolanda Canuck, Yolanda, last name Knaak. I just want to make a comment on John Evolito's information. I think it's accurate, and we need to do something about the online problem that we have, and we need to protect our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, we have no more callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the committee. I know that today was a very long hearing, so I appreciate your willingness to participate and be here with us today. As a note, I believe our agenda has been posted. There will be a revision if it hasn't been made already for a bill that was in. I believe it's already been revised, so please make sure that you review the updated agenda for our Thursday hearing, which I expect to be much shorter. With that, this committee is adjourned.